welcome once more to another rousing day of festivities and the 100 days of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where every day for 100 days we shall be dueling with a different deck upon each single day. Today is the 60th day of the 100 days, a most auspicious day, a most joyous day, a day of celebrations as we continue to celebrate the fair sex of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. And we are playing with this deck today. I believe they are called the Mikankos, which appear to be some sort of maidens from foreign lands here to give us a show. They're performers of some form, that is I have determined. And we shall be seeing this performance of theirs. It is what I've been told is called the halftime show, which is a rather interesting and comical name for another festivity within a festivity, but we shall call it as such, the halftime show of this week of fan maidens. And so we shall be going into Ye Olden EDO Pro. We shall be seeing these Mikankos and their performance and judge them as such upon how well they perform. So we shall proceed into today's festivities and joust with our opponents as we do, while these ladies put on a show for us to enjoy. Verily, my lords and ladies, I welcome you to the first joust of the day, and we shall be seeing the performance as such. We must go the second, as Sir Memphis has been told. Lord Memphis said that this deck very much appreciates to go after the opponent has made their turn. So that is what we shall do. As for our opening hand, it possesses many cards and many stratagems that we may employ. My opponent has summoned forth a half-naked demon woman, which is just to show that my opponent is filled with evil. Verily, I shall stop thee from your evils by sending a small child. I suppose that's what we're doing. We're using a small child. How does a small child stop anything? They're small children. They can't do anything on their own. Unless you're a little page boy, in which case then they can polish your boots. Regardless, my opponent has... What is this? You turn a wind-wicked beast. Negate any monster effects your opponent activates. Well then, quite so, quite so. I see. I see thou do not wish me to play my monsters. Well, two can play at that game, so I may not use monsters during this turn, you see. So I may not use the power of either mine priestess woman or this priestess woman. Many priestesses in this deck. I must be stating such, for it is truth. There are many such cards, so we shall be activating the armory that is quite hidden. With this, I may add one of mine swords to mine hand, and we shall start the performance with this fiery dance, which allows me to summon forth the sword of the Mikanko. I can't pronounce your name. Is it Heyray? I think it's pronounced Heyray. But when she is summoned forth, well, her effect will not work, but it doesn't really matter that much with this particular set. For the idea of this deck, as I have found out, is to attack into larger monsters. When Lord Memphis first showed me this deck, I was quite confuddled as to how it worked. I thought it was devilry of some form. I was prepared to bash him over the head with his sword mine. But then he explained that the idea of the Mikankos is that you're supposed to hit your opponent's large monsters with them, and then they take all of the damage. It's quite fascinating, I suppose. It's something to do with the performing arts and such sorts. But, you know, it's not the worst devilry I've seen, so I need to keep a broader mind of it, let us say. Let us say I must keep a broader mind about it. I am in foreign lands after all, and I will say these Mikankos are definitely dressed as though they are from foreign lands. I do appreciate that while they do show an uncomfortable amount of skin compared to the ladies I prefer, they're at least better dressed than these. These, what do you call these? That's some sort of devil woman now. Okay, what does it do? Negate the effect of as many face-up cards your opponent controls as possible. I see, but you didn't even do that. What a coward. What a coward. Regardless, I shall be now using another equipped spell. This is the double-edged sword. Probably my favorite equipped spell because it's actually something that looks like I would want to hold it. It will make my opponent's monster larger and they will take more damage. As such, I don't really need to do anything else, so I'm just going to attack my opponent with this. That is what our deck is about. We make a fiery performance, and my opponent loses. So, that is the idea. Quite the show, quite the show. We'll give an applause for these Mikankos. They put on quite the show. But let's see if they can keep doing that show. One performance is good, but are they repeatable? Verily, we proceed to the second act of our performance, once again attempting to, well, go second. As I stated, this is what this deck is about, and I can appreciate that, for it implies that our Mikankos are very action-oriented. I like it with my ladies, well, I prefer my women to be more submissive, but in this case, with their performance, I prefer them to take action, so to speak. I prefer it that way, so what are we up against? What on earth is this? Winged Dragon of Ra. What on earth is that? Some sort of foreign devil god? Perhaps? Mound of the Bound Creator. You would contain the Lord? Thou cannot do such a thing. The Lord is eternal. You cannot contain the Lord. That's not how that works. Also, what's the point of that? Why would you even summon that creature out? Quite odd. Quite odd. Regardless, let's see. Don't have much, but I have things. Let me think. We have already seen our fiery performance. Let us summon forth the green one. What is the green color for? I'm not sure. It reminds me of the rain I would see in the countryside. The infamous knight himself, how are you fighting? Oh. Does that say? I am fighting for King Karibo. Of course I am. Everyone knows this. That's what I do all the time. Alright, what is my opponent playing? Metal Reflect Slime, you say? Fight the creature. Another demon, I must say. Summoning Mikanko from mine hand would be tolerable, but in order for me to use the full effect of my monsters, I must do other things. So in this case, I shall get this card. I shall get the Spiritual Walk, and we shall strike our foes down. Let me think here. I could activate this. Do some more damage, but I think that will be enough. Let us strike forth and strike down this large whatever it is. My opponent will take all the damage as always. And from there, we shall see what they respond with. We shall see. But I will set this card face down, and that will suffice. That will suffice for now. For now, it shall suffice. I do have the Spiritual Walk. Normally, I'm opposed to anything that has to do with spirits, but I assume this is some sort of parody act of some form. It allows me to take my opponent's monsters and equip them to my monster. Fascinating. What does this do? 4,900. Oh. Barely so. Your monster gets larger. Well, that is part of my plan. I am trying to destroy monsters that are quite large. And this is called a dragon, so I'm going to assume it's a dragon. And the dragon ran away. The dragon ran away. I hate it when that happens. Every time I go to smite the dragon, they always run away from me. Quite odd indeed. But regardless, we have ourselves a second win of the day. These are going frightfully quickly, so we may have to duel many a time. It's going to be a long performance. I hope everyone likes a long halftime show, as they are called. I don't know how long they're supposed to be, but this will be a longer one. So let us proceed into the third round of performance. Verily, lords and ladies, I welcome you to the third round of competition. We shall be striving forth as well going second, although this time we'll be opening and going first. Let's see, what can these cards do going first? Not quite as much, but we shall attempt to regardless. Let us search forth our Ohime, which is the lead performer. We don't really summon this monster too often, but it is an option. We have the power to summon it, and it does do, it has effects and all that, of course. Why would we play it otherwise? But more importantly, it does other things for us. So we shall summon forth the Herald of the Arclight. This, I assume, is a herald from the heavens, although it's a rather odd-looking one. And it'll search out more of the Ohime. That way we have it when we need it. We shall reveal the Ohime in our hand. We shall get another card. In this case, let me think here. I have many things I can get here. Many things I'd like, and many things I don't really need at the moment. I shall search out the Fiery Sword. That will get me more cards. I shall set one of the Ohimes I no longer require. And I just remembered I have already done that part. Okay. This is not a problem. Because the power of these Mikankos is that apparently anyone can become a Mikanko performer. Normally you have to be born into that sort of work, but, you know, in this case I suppose I'm more open-minded about that. which is quite novel, quite novel. But now, though, we shall summon forth the green of our monsters. That way we can get one of the traps. As I've stated, this deck is preferably to go second. I mean, if you're a street performer, you need to have a street in upon which one performs. How can you perform on a street if there's no street? Therefore, why would you have them go first? It's like putting the horse before the carriage, or the carriage before the horse. Either way, it would be quite odd, quite odd. But we shall open up with this, and we'll see where this goes. What is this? I steal a demon? More demons. Every time I turn my back, the demons come back. Is this land infested with them or something? I mean, it's a good thing I'm here, otherwise that'd be a problem. But now that I know that the whole land is just nothing but demons, I can start slaughtering the lot of them. Build a house out of the corpses if I have the time. Let's see. No, I could steal his monster, but I prefer to use this on something... oh, larger. Something larger. What is this? More dragons. A dragon? The dragons have combined forces with demons. They thought they would not sink any lower. Let's see. A light monster from the deck. Interesting. What is that going to do? You would dare to combine the powers of light and darkness? You heathen! Very well. What on earth are you going to summon? Hieratic Dragon of Sue. Who is this Sue, and what do they do? What is this doing? Alright, if he's going to destroy my card anyway, I might as well use this. I shall steal this demon, I suppose. I'd rather not this touch my maiden, but I feel like... I don't know. I'm just going to take this one. Doesn't really matter too much. But because I've equipped myself with another card, I can, of course, get another card. That way, the shoe is on the other foot. My opponents want to play during my turn. Now I'll be playing on his turn. Let's see. I can summon a Mikanko from my hand if need be, but at the moment, I am fine. At the moment, we're fine. We shall set forth the rivalry. Apparently, these are different troops. Different troops of performers. Who would have guessed? The greens and the blues and the reds are different colored for different production companies. Who is to say? What is this? What is that? A worm, another worm, more dragons. More of this dragon tomfoolery. I will not tolerate. Verily. So what is this going to do? You have 3 monsters and it's 6 and 6. It's the devil's number. We must pray to the Lord for deliverance from such evil. And by that, I mean, ask him for a favor. Well, not a favor so much as a, ask him to watch us pummel them to death. That is what we need. That is what we shall do. So, what are you doing? Has some flicker of humanity come back to you? No, not quite. I thought for a moment his humanity had come back for a second, but quite the opposite. What is this? What on earth is this? I can't even tell you what it is. This card is summoned. Just draw a card. Destroy a monster Poké controls with the highest attack. Okay, but I can't be destroyed by card effects, so that doesn't really do you any good, does it? Not quite any good, does it? And now you have quite the large monster, which is all a part of my plan. So I hope you enjoy summoning this large whatever it is, because I'm about to trounce it. What say you to that, evil dragon? Alright, so you're just going to keep banishing mine cards. Foolish for you, they have gone to the heavens as loyal warriors and sons and daughters of the Lord. Therefore, I don't give a shit. As for you, one of your monsters is already in hell, so, I'm going to send the rest of them there in a minute. Although, to be fair, the Mikankos do not actually destroy monsters very often. Not really their thing. What does this do? What on earth is this? Another demon? Another dragon demon? Are demons and dragons the same thing in this world? I don't know. Seems to be the case, though. I mean, why would a dragon wear armor? You're a parody of a knight. You're mocking me, and I don't appreciate it. You are quite the blackguard, and you shall suffer for it. So what are you doing? This is clearly an evil dragon. Look at it. That's the evilest dragon I've seen in a long time. It's black and red. Those are the evil colors. Alright, so you've summoned quite a few monsters. You summoned whatever this is. What does it do? You summoning a monster straight from hell? Unbelievable. Alright, well, you have quite the assortment of cards, that has to be said. But my monster cannot still be destroyed by cards, therefore, what is the point? What on earth is this? An Angel of Chaos? Lucifer himself? What are you doing now? You're banishing this? I suppose. I mean, you can't target... yeah, you can't target my cards. I suppose that doesn't do you much good, does it? Do you send your own monster to hell for me? Well, talk about turning on your own. To be fair, devil worshippers don't have any sort of, familiarity or loyalty or anything of the sort, so what can you expect? And my opponent has pissed off. As one would expect, the forces of the darkness cannot stand up to a little girl who has not a single attack point. Let that be a lesson to all of you at home, that if you wish to summon out the devil and worship him and all of that nonsense, that this is your future. Surrendering to the sight of a little girl. So, you've just lost your manhood. You might as well cut it off and put it on a plate. Regardless, let us proceed into one final round of jousting. I think that will do it for today. We've seen most of what this contends to do. But why not? Let us see if we can find the forces of Satan one more time and just trounce them. Verily, my lords and ladies, I welcome you to the 4th round of jousts for today. Our opening hand is quite robust. I will accept it happily. Quite happily indeed. We have our Ohime, we have our sword, and my opponent is attempting to draw cards, for he has fallen into darkness. Normally I would stop that right away, but we must see the depths of his depravity first before we do anything of the sort. What on earth is this? Evil? His monsters are even called evil. That just proves that what we're doing is just in the name of Lord and King and country and the good Lord. That's how you know. If they're falling to darkness willingly, that means they must be evil. Now, regrettably, my opponent didn't summon a monster, which is not good. I would prefer them to have a monster on the board. That's the one weakness of these Mikankos, is that if you have a performer, you can't exactly perform for nobody, unless it's practice, but, that doesn't really apply in this certain situation. But regardless, I shall use my Ohime's effect. We shall search forth more cards. We shall sally forth. What say you to that, vile fiend, and your evil, the swarm of evil? What are you, a Sodom strike? You would dare use the Lord's cards to your advantage? Thou have no redemption in mind for you, sir. I'm trying to think of how we're going to punish you, but I'm honestly not sure at this point. Stoning, drowning, draw him and quarter him. Do all three at once. That'll work. I'm not sure how we'll do it, but we'll figure it out. Let's see here. Let us add ourselves the arabesque. This way we can get more cards on our field. And let me think about this. Yes, quite. Maybe slightly, no. We might be wasting a card or two, but I would rather do something rather than nothing. So we shall switch out of the fiery dance for that of wind. We haven't even summoned this one at this time, which, let's see. It does have effects, but it requires my opponent to have cards on their board, which is why we haven't actually summoned the Watery Maiden. It's not that she's not good or anything, it's that she just doesn't do anything at the moment. Shuffle an Evilsworm. Add an Evilsworm. Is it the French? I should have known. What on earth is this? Pastor, you say? Very well. I shall search forth mine spiritual walk. So, we have a start to our board. Not much, and I could summon forth my sword again, but really no point in doing so at the moment. We shall wait a turn. That is the thing. We need our opponent to have monsters upon their board for us to start trouncing them. If my opponent just doesn't summon any monsters, then I may have to use the extra deck, which I have not actually used today. Because for the most part, you don't use it except for the Herald of the Light, who is the Lord's messenger. He's the only monster in the exit that really matters to us that much. Regardless, what are you trying to do? You shuffle one monster for another, you say. You shuffled back the card you already had, so what was the point in searching that card out? What was the point, sir? I'm not sure, but he's using evil. Let's see, when a card effect is activated, banish this card you control. Interesting. So if I activate a card, then your monster will leave the board. Fascinating. I will remember that. Well, you still take all the damage, so you can start off. Let's see. I see. So my opponent is attempting to diffuse the tension, so to speak. See, if I attack into his monster, he can mainly use his trap, his infestation. He's clearly he's carrying the plague. He's a plague-bearing demon. That's who we face on this duel. On this day, let it be known that the Mikanko theater troupe stood bravely their ground against evil. They stood side by side with the Lord's men, and they did not give quarter. I can give them some respect for that. I do appreciate that. Let's see. I can return his card to his hand. Would that help me in any meaningful way? Not certain. But what we are going to do, I'm going to activate the effect of mine ritual monster. I'm going to seek out the Grand Ceremony, which I assume is the name of the theater troupe. And we're going to discard this card because I don't need it right now. Not at the moment. We shall end our turn, like I said. My opponent needs to have a monster, and they refuse to keep one upon the board. I may at this point have to go for the cards in mine extra deck, otherwise I'm not going to be able to do any damage. And why do you keep getting that card if you keep putting it back in your deck? What is the point of that? Answer me, vile fiend. I need the answer before I cut your mouth off. Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. What is this? What on earth is this? Oh, Lord. What on earth is this vile abomination? Azathoth. That sounds vile indeed. Alright. What does it do? Oh, I was too taken aback for what it looked like. Like a special summon monster on the field and shuffle it into the deck, you say? Quite. Well. Two can play at that game. I summon forth a dinosaur. It's not a dragon. It's close to a dragon, but it's not a dragon. It just looks like one. A little bit. Slightly. In any case, I shall now activate mine spell, the Great Mikanko Ceremony, and summon forth the Ohime from on hand. The way I can summon this monster, it will only last a turn, but that's fine. Let us activate, let's see. I need an equip spell onto my monster. So I shall equip my monster with the Arabesque. And let's see, if he's going to steal my cards and destroy them, I might as well just, equip them. I see no reason why not to do this. And then, yes, my opponent will take 500 damage from every equipped spell I control. So at the very least, we're doing damage. And, wait a minute. If I equip this, I get to keep this monster. Alright. That works too. That works too. And I can summon a monster, summon a Mikanko card. Alright. I'm going to banish my ceremony here. And I just remembered that the spell I needed to send is right here. Irrelevant. Let's send the last of the Mikanko monsters that we haven't summoned yet. Why not? Then I can revive it later. For now, here's what we're going to do. Summon forth the Sword of the Mikanko and equip it with the Green Dance. I can't really pronounce what it's called, but it's the green one. And now I'm going to search out another card. We'll add the Fiery Sword. That way we have all the Mikankos in the world. That's what we'll do. We'll activate our Fiery Dance. And now we can finally summon forth the blue one. And I can summon a monster from my opponent's graveyard with this. So now I shall give unto him his own medicine. Your medicine will be yours now. Let's see. And my... Oh. Right as I am attempting to read mine parchment, my opponent surrenders, which is quite uncouth. But at the very least, I was about to defeat mine opponent. I mean, that's 19... How does math again? 1 and 1 is 2, 9 is... that was going to be game. Anyway, you understand the idea. Let us proceed now to the end screen. We have shown off what our ladies can do. Quite the performance. I applaud them. Verily, my lords and ladies, the Mikanko's performance has gone 4 wins out of 4. As one would expect, these ladies are quite the performers, it must be said. They may be from foreign lands, but they are welcome in the Curry Kingdom, in my book at least. I mean, it's up to the king, honestly, and, well, you know, he's the king. He can do whatever the hell he wants. If he tells me to smite them, I will, but I'll put in a good word for them, because they do quite well. They strike down the infidels, they strike down the demons, and I can appreciate any woman who can at least get some work done, you know? That's the thing. I appreciate a woman who can at least put in some effort. That is something that is admirable of them to do. They are a much humble lot, and therefore, you know, when they put in the extra effort, I can appreciate it. Regardless, I appreciate you all for stopping by for today's festivities. Make sure that you show up for tomorrow's, for we will be continuing these festivities for several more days for this Women of Fair Sex Week. That is what we are doing. And so, thank you, my lords and ladies, for participating in these jousts today. If thou appreciated it, well then, show it on the screen buttons that are here that Lord Memphis told me to point out. I keep forgetting what they're called, but regardless, oh, right, I must divulge the cards we used today. So for today's deck, we ran 1 copy each of these 4 giant monster creatures, one of which looks suspiciously like the devil. 3 copies of a small child. I'm not sure why we have this card, but we have 3 copies of that card. 2 copies of the green Mikanko. 2 copies of the red one. And 1 copy of the blue one. 3 copies of this Holy Cleric. We have 3 copies of the Ohime, because it allows us to get more cards. We have 2 copies of the Divine Smiting from the Lord. 3 copies of our magical source of swords. I think that's what it is. I think that's what's going on here. 3 copies of the Preparation of Rites, as we see the priest preparing for church. 2 copies of 2 giant monsters flying. I think that's what they're doing. 2 copies of the Great Mikanko Ceremony. 1 copy of Best Equipped Spell, the Double-Edged Sword. We have 3 copies of the Water Equipped Spell. 1 copy of the green one. 1 copy of the other blue one. 2 copies of the Fiery Sword. 1 copy of the Spiritual Walk. And 1 copy of the Rivalry. As for our extra deck, it's basically irrelevant. We didn't actually summon anything out of here. The only thing that really matters is that we have the Heralds, which allow us to get more cards. That's all that really matters. The rest you can do on your own. It doesn't really matter. Like we have the Accesco Talker because he's a noble knight, so he gets a pass from me. He's good. The rest don't really matter too much. I don't know if we can summon half of these cards. I mean, some of them are demons, so don't even worry about those. And there's some women in suspiciously short skirts, and I don't appreciate that. So that's the extra deck. As for the side deck, there's things like the Good Burial, which allows us to send the Ceremony if we need to. We have these pots. Since we don't use the extra deck very often, these are also options for getting more cards. And then we have a rather obese goblin of some sort, who appears to be tending the grass, so he must be the groundskeeper. So, I suppose if you want to run the groundskeeper, you're welcome to. Regardless, thank you very much for today. Tomorrow we'll be playing, surprisingly enough, a continuation of our half-game special, where we will be summoning out more performers. It's going to be a very, very long halftime show, I suppose. So, stay tuned for that. Until next time, your Sir Memphis shall be signing off for now. I shall see thee upon the morrow.